I can already tell you that this guy is going to be a fan favorite. There's something about the fullback, the guy who rarely touches the ball despite being an eligible player, that fans just can't get enough of. And Robbie Ouzts has a great profile for the position. He is big, strong, fast, and most of all, he is an aggressive and nasty blocker. And the mustache doesn't hurt either. There's a lot to break down with this player and his fit here in Seattle, so let's dig in. Because Robbie Ouzts is going to be playing fullback for the Seahawks, the most important thing in his profile is his run blocking. That's what he's going to be asked to do, play in and play out, and that is the thing that is going to get him on the field. And luckily for him, that's pretty much what he did in college. Ouzts was not a starter for Alabama, but rather he was a rotational blocking tight end, and his tape there is pretty good. Let's start with this play, which shows maybe my favorite thing about Ouzts, which is his mentality. He is reckless and he wants to punish defenders. On this play against Oklahoma, Bama is in a pistol with a wing to the bottom of our screen and a receiver in a tight alignment behind the tackle. They're running split flow inside zone, and Ouzts is tasked with blocking this edge player. And I just love the way that he goes about it. Ouzts is quick out of his stance, he has a powerful first strike, and he quickly takes control of the defender. After that, he swivels around the defender to lock him off from the play and gain the proper angle for this block. And to finish, he just throws the defender to the ground. This is a fantastic play from start to finish, and I think it does a great job of showcasing how Ouzts approaches football. He wants to be physical, aggressive, and he takes pride in his blocking. These are the things that you need to see from a player who's going to be playing fullback for you, and the way that Ouzts approaches his blocks is certainly one of the things that made the Seahawks coaches fall in love with him. Here's another play, and this time Ouzts is operating a little bit more like he's a fullback. Against Wisconsin, Bama is running zone read lead with Ouzts pulling across the formation to be the lead blocker for Milroe. The most impressive thing about this play is the speed from Robbie Ouzts. He is a massive tight end coming in at 274 pounds, but he can still fly. His acceleration isn't great, but once he gets up to his top speed like he does on this play, he can move. Ouzts stays in front of Milroe, which is no small feat, and he lands a key block 20 yards down the field. This is the other thing that makes Ouzts' profile perfect for this scheme. Fullbacks in a Shanahan system need to not only be powerful, but they also need to have the speed to land the blocks in the locations that they need to. You can't just be basically another offensive lineman, because you have to be able to get out and go and take out a corner on outside zone. Let's watch this in action in this clip from the Saints last year. Here they're running outside zone from their 21 personnel I formation. 21 personnel means you have two backs, in this case a running back and a fullback, and one tight end. The receivers are kind of just assumed when talking about personnel, so there's two receivers as well. That's what 21 personnel means. Right now I'm making an entire video on the outside zone system, and I've written the script for it. It's going to be awesome and super nerdy, so I'm not going to get too deep into the weeds about all of the intricacies that are happening here. We're just going to focus on the role that Ouzts is playing. Here, Adam Prentice is playing fullback. It sounds like Prentice was the Seahawks' backup plan if they didn't get a fullback that they liked in the draft, and he is a solid enough player, but I think that this play shows some of his shortcomings. Working from left to right, let's go through these blocks. We have a base block from the tight end, a combo block from the guard and tackle up to the play side linebacker, a reach block from the center on this nose tackle, and another combo block with the right guard and right tackle. The defensive end is being left unblocked because the quarterback is accounting for him. That leaves Prentice with this playside corner who is off the screen right now. This block is extremely important. It is arguably the most important block in this concept if the play is going to be able to hit. Prentice does a great job of sprinting through the hole, breaking down and making contact with the corner. He easily moves him out of the way to create space for Kamara coming behind him. This is the job of the fullback, and Kubiak did a a great job of scheming up this matchup on a defensive back, but it's really down to the fullback to pay it off and take full advantage of this mismatch. I know that the 40 times of Prentice and Ouzts were similar, but I don't think that their game speed is. Last year, Prentice was a solid enough fullback, but Kubiak used Taysom Hill in that role as well when the play required more speed. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I think Ouzts is going to be a really good fullback in this system. He has the power that you want at 274 pounds, but he's also really fast on the field. In the last clip that we looked at, we saw him with a head start admittedly, but still he was able to make a block 20 yards down the field for Milroe. This is a guy who can make blocks anywhere on the field and do anything that Kubiak could ask his fullback to do. On this play that we just looked at from the Saints, I think that Ouzts could have gotten there a tick sooner and made the hole just a little bit bigger for Kamara. That is a great skill set to have if you have a fullback that has that combination of power and speed. Here's one more play that shows Ouzts really playing that fullback role. He's aligned as the tight end, but the Crimson Tide are running GH counter. This is a nice play design with a fake orbit motion and the backside pulling guard and tight end, and that really sets the scene for Ouzts to be taking on this playside linebacker right in the hole. The most important thing that you need to do on these blocks is quickly establish your angle and get knockback. These fullback lead blocks are rather unique because you don't really need to hold your block for very long, but you do need to win the initial contact. That first punch is just so much more important because that might be the only punch that matters. And that is exactly what Ouzts does. He comes in quickly, takes a proper angle, and knocks the linebacker far enough back to clear a beautiful lane for the ball carrier. More than any play I've seen on his tape, this is the play that convinces me that Ouzts has the power to really play fullback at the NFL level. Outside of his blocking, Ouzts can catch the ball a little bit because he was a tight end and he has some experience running simple routes, but this is really not why you brought him to Seattle. He's not going to be a Kyle Juszczyk type player who can truly go outside and run routes, but if you need him to run to the flat or quickly draw some coverage, he can do some of that. Now, as for weaknesses in his game, I'm really going to focus on his blocking. If you're comparing him to other tight ends, he's a terrible pass catcher and route runner, but that's not really what his role is going to be. But as a fullback, I do have a couple of concerns. Firstly, Ouzts does need to sustain his blocks better. We've talked about how that often isn't super important for fullbacks, as they will sometimes just be asked to win the initial block. But Kubiak also likes to use his fullbacks as tight ends, and I think that flexibility is important. When you're making these blocks as a tight end, you do really need to be able to sustain for far longer than you do as a fullback. Let's look at a clip that shows this. Here against Auburn, Ouzts does a decent job with the first contact, but then the defender is able to disengage from the block and slip back inside. This can be improved with better technique, but right now there's just not enough consistency in his blocking to be relied on in these situations. And a lot of this is due to his shorter arm length. It's just third percentile for tight ends. And this really does limit his ability to maintain blocks, and it does make it easier for players to shed off of his blocks. It's a concern, and I don't think he's ever going to be a guy that you'd love asking to maintain his blocks for a long time, but fortunately he won't have to do that a ton in his traditional fullback role. I think the other weakness that he has is sometimes he doesn't take great angles. On this split flow read option play, Ouzts is coming across in the split flow action, and the edge player is crashing down into the box. What Ouzts needs to do right now is seal him out of the play, and this is where his aggressiveness hurts him. He dips his head and isn't able to seal out the defender. He didn't take a proper angle, and he didn't use proper technique for the block, and that is what blows up this play. So there is a little bit of inconsistency with his angles in space and some of his technique. That's what he needs to focus on cleaning up at the NFL level. But ultimately, I think that Ouzts is going to come in and be a solid starting fullback. I did go back and watch all of Brady Russell's film from last year because he really was the Seahawks fullback in 2024. And while I like him, I think that Ouzts is going to win the job. Let's quickly break down why. On this play against the Lions, Brady Russell is showing his aggressive mentality. That's one of the things that you love about him, but he just doesn't have the mass and the strength to really move guys. I do like Brady Russell as a player, and I think he will have a role as a rotational tight end with some fullback flexibility, but Uts just brings a different level of power at the point of attack. If I had to sum up what I like about Robbie Uts, that is it. He has a unique combination of power and speed, and that is a super useful profile for a fullback. Grading this selection is a little bit interesting because on one hand, you did draft a fullback in the 5th round. Robbie Uts was ranked 356th on the consensus big board, and the Seahawks selected him with pick 175. That is a huge reach, and in general, I just don't think that you should spend draft picks on a position like fullback. It is one of the least valuable positions on your football team. But I do like the selection because the other way that you can look at this is that you spent a 5th round pick to select a player who you know is going to contribute. You drafted a near lock of a starter in the 5th round, albeit at the fullback position, but this guy is going to contribute. So when you get down to one of the final picks in the 5th round, I'm fine with taking a player that you know is going to contribute to your team. I don't care that it's a reach according to the consensus big board or that it's one of the least valuable positions in this sport. He's still a player who's going to make his presence felt on game day from his rookie year. Getting that in the 5th round to me is a B+ selection. It's not an incredible steal or anything because the upside is low just because of the position that he plays. But I think that Uts is going to be a starter, and that's a pretty good value. Thanks for watching, and go Hawks.